The year 1066 marked a turning point in English history, the Norman Conquest. This monumental event not only altered the political landscape but also had far-reaching effects on the cultural and literary fabric of England. William the Conqueror triumphed at the Battle of Hastings, claiming the English throne and ushering in a new era. His victory was not just a military conquest, but a cultural revolution that would reshape the identity of the nation. This shift in power had profound implications for English culture, language, and literature. The blending of Norman and Saxon elements created a unique cultural tapestry that influenced every aspect of life, from architecture to everyday speech. The Anglo-Norman period, spanning from 1066 to the late 12th century, witnessed a fusion of Norman French and Old English traditions. This era saw the emergence of new literary forms and genres, enriching the English literary canon. Before the conquest, English literature flourished with epic poems like Beowulf and prose works like the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. These works laid the foundation for the rich literary tradition that would continue to evolve. The Norman court, with its emphasis on courtly love, chivalry, and feudalism, became a patron of the arts, shaping the themes and styles of the era's literature. This patronage led to the creation of works that celebrated the ideals of knighthood and noble conduct. Amidst these upheavals, English literature not only survived but thrived, adapting and evolving. The resilience and adaptability of English writers ensured that the literary tradition continued to grow, incorporating new influences while preserving its rich heritage. The Anglo-Norman period witnessed a blossoming of diverse literary genres. Chronicles, historical accounts often written from a Norman perspective, became dominant. These chronicles, such as Geoffrey of Monmouth's History of the Kings of Britain, provide valuable insights into the era. Romance, celebrating courtly love, chivalry, and adventure, also flourished. Anglo-Norman romances featured knights errant on perilous quests, their bravery tested through trials of love and combat. Religious literature played a significant role, with the Church commissioning works promoting piety and morality. Devotional texts, saints' lives, and moral allegories shaped the religious landscape. This diverse literary landscape laid the foundation for the richness of later English literature. One defining feature of Anglo-Norman literature is the interplay between Norman French and Old English. This dynamic relationship between the two languages shaped the cultural and literary landscape of medieval England in profound ways. The Norman conquest of 1066 brought with it not just a new ruling class, but also a new linguistic influence that permeated various aspects of life. Following the conquest, Norman French became the language of power and prestige. It was spoken in the royal court, in legal proceedings, and by the nobility. This dominance of Norman French in official and high-status contexts created a linguistic divide between the ruling class and the common people who continued to speak Old English. Old English continued to be spoken and written, albeit with an influx of Norman French loanwords. These loanwords enriched the Old English vocabulary, introducing new terms for governance, art, cuisine, and more. The blending of these languages can be seen in manuscripts where Old English texts are annotated with Norman French glosses. This linguistic duality is evident in the literature of the period. Writers often navigated between the two languages, creating works that reflected the bilingual nature of their society. This period saw the production of texts that were either entirely in Norman French, entirely in Old English, or a fascinating mix of both. Some works were written entirely in Norman French, while others blended elements of both languages. This blending was not just a matter of vocabulary, but also of literary styles and conventions, leading to innovative forms of expression. This fusion is apparent in texts like Layamon's Brut, where Old English alliteration coexists with Norman French vocabulary. Layamon's work is a prime example of how the two linguistic traditions could be woven together to create something new and unique. The interaction between these languages wasn't always seamless, resulting in linguistic tension. Scholars and writers often debated the merits and proper usage of each language, reflecting broader social and cultural tensions of the time. This fusion ultimately enriched English, leading to the development of Middle English. The blending of Norman French and Old English laid the groundwork for the rich, diverse vocabulary and expressive potential of the English language as we know it today. Layerman's Brut, composed in the late 12th century, stands as a testament to the cultural and linguistic fusion of the Anglo-Norman period. This epic poem blends Norman French and Old English elements, reflecting the evolving identity of England. Layerman's choice of language demonstrates a conscious effort to reclaim and celebrate his English heritage. The poem's subject matter, the legendary history of Britain, underscores themes of national identity and historical continuity. Layerman interweaves English folklore and mythology with the chivalric ethos of the Norman court. The exploits of King Arthur embody this fusion, presenting him as both a valiant warrior and a magical figure. The church played a pivotal role in shaping the literary landscape of Anglo-Norman England. Religious devotion and didacticism permeated various literary genres, from saints' lives to moral allegories. These works instructed the faithful in matters of faith and morality, reinforcing the Church's authority. Saints' lives, popular throughout medieval Europe, found fertile ground in Anglo-Norman England. Moral allegories used symbolic narratives to convey moral and spiritual lessons. The Ancrene Wis, a guide for female hermits, exemplifies this genre. Sermons provided another avenue for religious instruction and moral guidance. Collections of sermons, such as those attributed to Wulfstan, offer insights into the theological concerns of the period. Romance flourished in the courts and castles of Anglo-Norman England, blending courtly love, chivalric ideals and adventure. These stories were not just mere entertainment, they were a reflection of the societal values and aspirations of the time. Nobles and royals would gather to listen to these tales, which often served as a guide to proper conduct and behavior. These tales transported audiences to a world of knights-errant, damsels in distress, and perilous quests. The narratives were filled with heroic deeds, magical encounters, and moral dilemmas, captivating the imaginations of listeners and readers alike. Courtly love presented a complex code of conduct governing relationships between noble men and women. It was an idealized form of love that emphasized nobility, honor, and often unattainable desires. This form of love was both a social and literary construct, shaping the interactions and expectations of the nobility. It celebrated idealized love, often adulterous, characterized by secrecy and chivalry. The lovers would engage in secret trysts, their love often forbidden and fraught with danger, adding to the allure and drama of the stories. Chivalry emphasized bravery, loyalty, honor, and courtesy. Knights were expected to uphold these virtues, not just in battle but in their everyday interactions. This code of conduct was integral to the identity of the medieval knight. Knights-errant embodied these ideals, embarking on quests to prove their worth and uphold justice. These quests were often perilous, requiring the knight to demonstrate not just physical prowess but also moral integrity and wisdom. The influence of Arthurian legend looms large in Anglo-Norman romance. Stories of King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table provided a rich tapestry of adventure, loyalty, and mystical elements that deeply influenced the genre. Works like The Romance of Tristan and Iseult drew inspiration from this tradition, showcasing the enduring legacy of these tales. These stories have transcended time, continuing to inspire art, literature, and popular culture, reminding us of the timeless nature of love and heroism. The Anglo-Norman period left an indelible mark on the development of English literature. This era of linguistic fusion and literary innovation laid the groundwork for the flourishing of English writing. The influx of Norman French words enriched the vocabulary, leading to the development of Middle English. This linguistic fusion influenced English grammar and syntax. The Anglo-Norman period introduced new literary genres, themes, and styles. Romance, with its emphasis on courtly love and chivalry, influenced later works. Themes of religious devotion, moral allegory, and social satire continued to find expression in English writing. The tradition of literary patronage fostered a culture of support for writers. The transmission of Anglo-Norman literature relied on manuscript copying. Scribes, often in monastic scriptoria, painstakingly copied texts by hand. These manuscripts, adorned with intricate illuminations, provide a glimpse into the artistry of the age. The advent of printing in the 15th century revolutionized the dissemination of literature. While many Anglo-Norman works were not immediately printed, their influence persisted. The development of printing marked a turning point, making texts more widely accessible. This shift paved the way for the Renaissance and the flourishing of print culture. The Anglo-Norman period holds a pivotal place in the history of English literature. The fusion of Norman French and Old English traditions created a vibrant literary landscape. From Layman's Brut to courtly love poetry, Anglo-Norman literature reflects dynamic change. The legacy of this period is evident in the evolution of the English language. The influx of Norman French words enriched the vocabulary, shaping Middle English. The Anglo-Norman period stands as a testament to the resilience of language and creativity.